السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أو من كان ميتا فأحييناه وجعلنا له نورا يمشي به في الناس كمن مثله في ظلمات ليس بخارج منها كذلك زين للكافرين ما كانوا يعملون. Respected brothers and elders, mothers and sisters in Islam, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us in the company of the righteous in this world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raise us amongst the righteous on the day of Qiyamah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill our lives with mercy and rahmah, as all of us are in the need of the rahmah and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ayat of the Quran that I recited in front of you is from the 8th Sipara, the 8th juz. And the surah is Surah Na'am, which is the 6th surah in the order of recitation. And the ayah is verse number 122. So this is chapter 6, verse 122. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions to us and gives us an analogy, a metaphor, an example for all of us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions to us and says, أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us an example and asks us to think, visualize and understand and think and see, and says, can those that had been dead and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them life and light? Two things Allah mentions. فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا. First Allah gave them life, then Allah gave them light. Initially, these in أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا, they were dead. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them hidayat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them, فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ, gave them life, وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا, and then Allah gave them light as well. يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ. And with this light and with this life, they walk through the individuals, with people. Now they live in these two beautiful blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can this individual, can this person, meaning a person who was dead, then Allah gave them life, Allah gave them light, then they begin to walk on the face of this earth with people. كَمَنْ مَثَلَهُ, can they ever be equal to that individual who فِي ظُلُمَاتٍ لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِنْهَا, who lives in darkness, in the depth of darkness, and will never come from it, will never emerge from that darkness. Can that individual who was dead, that Allah gave life and lights and walks in the face of this earth, be ever equal to that individual who is dead and that individual who lives in darkness? And then the Quran says, لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ, and such darkness that they would never come out from. The Quran gives this ultimate and says they will never come out from. Then it says, كَذَلِكَ زُيِّنَ لِلْكَافِرِينَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. And this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, keeps this for the disbelievers, that they continuously, grow the path of disbelief. But the point that I want to mention to you is the first part of this ayat of the Quran. What is this ayat? What is it giving us? What example is this? There's a kitab called Asbabun Nuzul, which refers to the reasons of revelation of the ayats of the Quran, why a particular ayat was revealed. In Asbabun Nuzul, there's a riwayah from a companion known as Sa'd bin Abbas radiallahu anhu, who mentions that this very ayat of the Quran was revealed at a very particular time in the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said that the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam began his da'wah in Mecca. Initially, it remained to be very private. But few years had passed where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala openly asked the Nabi of Allah to invite the people towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When the open invitation towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala began, the people of Quraysh could not handle this. So they began to persecute, give trouble to the Muslims and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Amongst the people, amongst the Muslims, there were two groups of individuals. Those that they did not have any family, they did not have a strong backing, their lineage weren't very, very strong. And these were the ones who dealt the most difficulty. Amongst them was Bilal bin Rabah, Khabbab bin Arat. They didn't come from very strong Arabian families. And there were others as well who accepted Islam, but they came from very strong Arabic families. And even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. That their family ties and relationships were so strong that they were not very strong and harsh in dealing with it. But there were a group of Sahaba that they were extremely, extremely in difficult conditions because they did not come from that very situation. And subhanAllah, the persecution and difficulty increased to the point that I was mentioning this either yesterday or last night, that a group of according to Sa'ad ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, from the book Asbab al-Nuzul mentions that it was that very day, there are two riwayah, that there were 2 days, there was a day where Abu Jahl had asked the people, the leaders of Makkah, to go and grab the filth of the camels from the outskirts of Makkah, from Bhutan and Aqiq, and bring it and throw it on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he began to suffocate and he could not even breathe properly. And these are the ashraf, so-called ashraf, and the noble men. And they have gone to such a low level that they are going to the garbage of Makkah, which is in the outskirts of Bhutan and Aqiq, and bringing in the filth and dropping it on the Prophet. That's how low that they have gone. And I'll connect these two things together. And the second has mentioned that one day, Abu Jahl seen Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam give the da'wah or invitation towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he had an arrow in his hand. And he struck the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he was hit in his head and he began to bleed. Both riwayah and traditions have come. As soon as this occurred, Hamza radiallahu anhu is the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a person who he dearly, dearly loved. Hamza radiallahu anhu is a person who is not only the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, meaning his paternal uncle, Chacha, meaning his father's younger brother, but he was a very close friend to the Prophet. They're very close in age. Another thing that they shared in common was that they also had the same nursing mother. So they drank milk from the same woman, so that they were very, very close in relationship as well. And that's why on the day of Uhud, when Hamza radiallahu anhu had passed away, when his body was recognized only by the fingerprints of his hands, the pores of his hand, that's where his sister recognized that he was Musla, meaning they took his body parts and put him into a thread. And it was a very difficult situation where the Nabi of Allah saw this condition and he cried so profusely. And he said, there are people to cry for everyone, but there's no one to cry for my uncle Hamza radiallahu anhu. And they said that one janazah went and the other janazah went and the other janazah went. And Rasulullah ﷺ kept on praying till the revelation came that, O Muhammad ﷺ, we have mentioned Hamza du Asadullahi wa Asadu Rasuli. Hamza is the lion of Allah and His Rasul. Right? We have mentioned this in the heavens, that Hamza is the lion of Allah and His Rasul. Right? And this was revealed that this is how much love he had for Hamza. So Hamza radiallahu anhu, this is pre-Islamic time for Hamza radiallahu anhu. So he came back to Makkah and he heard this noise by people saying that Hamza's nephew got beat by Abu Jahl. So Hamza's like, what happened? And he has not accepted Islam at this time. So Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib goes and says, what happened? So he goes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in one riwayah they say that it was the filth that was thrown and the other that was the arrow that was hit. So Hamza radiallahu anhu had not even cleansed himself, or he had not even, taken a rest from the hunting. He was a hunter. Hamza radiallahu anhu was a hunter. And that's why, subhanAllah, on the day of Uhud, when it was asked by Wahshi, how did you kill Hamza radiallahu anhu? He's a lion. How did you get to kill him? So he said, I was given the task for 3 people. If I kill any of them, I would be set free. So I looked for the Prophet ﷺ, who was my first target. But I saw him well guarded by Sahaba. Sahaba did not let anyone come close to him. So I saw him very well guarded on the day of Uhud. I tried from all sides, but no one could come close to him. So I gave up. Then I looked for my second target, and that was Ali ibn Abi Talib. And he said he was the most strategic, smart individual that I've seen in my life. That his eyes were all over the place. I couldn't come from behind, the left, or the right, or the front. And I looked for all tactics from all sides, but I couldn't find a way for Ali radiallahu anhu. And then he said, I saw Hamza radiallahu anhu. He said he was fighting with 2 swords in his hands. And he was like a mountain. And when he walked, everything was cleansed in front of him. Meaning nothing could face him from the front. But there was only one thing that he was not looking in his back. Meaning he was just moving forward. And there was nothing that could stand in front of him. So he said, I stood behind a rock, which was right behind Hamza radiallahu anhu. And he said, I was hiding. And he says, Hamza radiallahu anhu could not even see me. And he said, I took a spear and threw it from the back of Hamza radiallahu anhu. He said, I didn't hit him from the front because I was too scared to see him from the front. He said, I threw it from the back that hit him and went through the chest. And he said, he looked back at me. And he says, when he looked back at me, it was as though that my life left, my soul left my body. When Hamza radiallahu anhu, the ru'ab of Hamza radiallahu anhu. So Hamza radiallahu anhu was a hunter. So he came back. And someone says, your nephew has been beaten up like this. So Hamza radiallahu anhu did not even put his arrows away. He came. He says, where is Abu Jahl? And he says, this is where Abu Jahl is, sitting amongst the ashraf of Makkah. He went and he said, where did he hit you? He says, right here. He took that arrow and struck it right on the head of Abu Jahl in front of everyone. He says, Abu Jahl says, oh Abu Ya'la, this was the kunyat of Hamza radiallahu anhu. Abu Ya'la, have you gone mad? Have you gone crazy? This man has left the forefathers and he has disgraced our idols and he has done this to us and done this to us. And at this moment, Hamza radiallahu anhu said, who is a more foolish person than you who worship stones? And today I testify that there is none worthy of worship but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the messenger. And then Sa'ad bin Abbas radiallahu anhu said, as soon as this occurred, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this ayat of the Quran. أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ. For those who were dead, and then Allah gave them life, then Allah gave them light, and they began to walk on the face of this earth, can ever be compared to those that are dead and lives in darkness, which they will never come from, which is Abu Jahl. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this ayat of the Quran for Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib radiallahu anhu, when he accepted Islam. That's one riwayah, one tradition. The second, I'm not going to go into the details. It's Monday morning, got to get to work. Second thing is, which is reported by Zayd bin Sabit radiallahu anhu. Zayd bin Sabit radiallahu anhu mentions that this ayat of the Quran was revealed on the day when Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu accepted Islam. And this ayat of the Quran is a comparative reason between Umar bin Khattab and Amr bin Hisham, which are the 2 Umars. Quickly, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw the difficulty that the Sahaba had. One day Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I want to openly say the name of Allah in the Kaaba. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Abu Bakr, this is not the time. We can't do this right now. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I feel like saying the name of Allah loudly in the Kaaba. He said, Abu Bakr, this is not the time. And then he asked for the 3rd time, and the Nabi of Allah said, Abu Bakr, do as you wish. He went and he said the name of Allah, and at this moment, Utbah and Shayba and Rabi'ah and all the enemies came from all sides, and they began to struck him. And Utbah took the shoe that he was wearing, and he took the heel of his shoe and began to beat the face of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, till he became unconscious. And people came and they said, Utbah, are you going to kill the man from the tribe, which is so well known, and they will not let us live in Makkah? And he said, okay, I'll let him go. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was taken home. He became conscious. When he became conscious, the first thing he said is, where is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Is he okay? The Prophet sallallahu okay? So the father of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu says, I'm not going to even speak to you. For the reason that you are being killed, you're asking for him. Then his mother came, Khair. He says, Mother, can you do me a favor? Can you please take me to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? I can't eat, I can't drink till I see Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So his mother went, she finally found Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, came, and then when he saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he hugged him and he cried and he says, there is no pain when Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is fine. The Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw his condition, and the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam began to cry and weep, and then he made dua. And he said, Ya Allah, help Islam through the Islam of Umar bin Khattab or Amr ibn Hisham. These were the two great men of their time, right? Umar bin Khattab or Amr ibn Hisham, which is Abu Jahl. And this was Thursday night. And next morning is the story when Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu went to his sister's house. He read the Quran and Allah gave him hidayat. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted that dua on behalf of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. That Allah gave strength to Islam through the Islam of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. So Zayd radiallahu anhu mentions that this ayat of the Quran, أَوْ مَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ, was revealed for Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, and the comparison is for Abu Jahl, Amr ibn Hisham, who continuously lived in dhulumat, darkness, laysa bi kharijin, and he cannot minha, will not be able to come from that darkness. So this ayat of the Quran again is the 8th juz of the Quran, 6th surah chapter, verse number 122. Both narrations, one for Hamza radiallahu anh and one for Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh. May Allah give us the understanding, love of the Quran and the Sunnah and the Sahaba radiallahu anh. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi.